Hey, you too. Welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daley. I'm your law enforcement translator. I'm here to provide insight on difficult current event topics, you guys, especially those involving law enforcement. As your 13-year veteran, here to provide insight on these difficult conversations, you guys. Thank you again for your support. Again, welcome to the channel. Shout out to my subscribers. Thank you so much for all of your support, you guys, from start to finish. I appreciate you guys holding with me. Now, what are we talking about today? Let me dive into this interesting topic, you guys. This particular stream, this premiere is called Black Skin, White Shadows. Now listen, as I'm sitting back over the last few days, you guys, as you know, last week was very interesting. There was a lot going on, from debates to arguments to back and forth discussions, and I will say this. It's very interesting. When I got into this space, I knew that people were going to challenge a lot of things that I was saying, a lot of things that I'm standing for. Even as a translator, someone in the middle here, to be a beacon of light, a beacon of hope on both sides, right? On one end, we have law enforcement who's having a hard time dealing with the African American community. They have a hard time dealing with the people and the citizens just in general in this country. There's so much that needs to be done. There's so much that needs to be changed. And unfortunately, there's a big misunderstanding, there's miscommunication, and there's a lot of abuse of power. And I believe that now people have got to a point where they want real solutions. And I'm saying, listen, I have an idea. I have a great idea, and I think it'll work. Matter of fact, I know it'll work. I just need the right opportunity. And so I decided to start this channel and speak out against a lot of issues that need to change. I also say, listen, I am a black man. I represent the black community. How about I speak on their behalf? Why? Because I know the job. I have the experience. And so now I started this channel to reach out to the community and say, listen, let's have a discussion. Let's talk about these real issues. Let me hear how you feel. Let me be a representative for our community to speak to law enforcement. Again, because unfortunately, the paths have crossed and there's a broken line of communication. Historical issues have still and continue to play a role today. And you guys, we have to address those things. And that's what leads us to this particular premiere, you guys. This premiere is unique. It wasn't planned, but I thought it's a good idea to actually do this. You guys, last week I had a discussion on a panel called the Peef Network. So shout out to the Peef and the crew over there for giving me an opportunity to go on the panel and have a discussion about police issues as it impacts the black community. Now, that discussion actually evolved into another one. There was a lady that I had a disagreement with on that panel. As you guys know, if you haven't seen that 7-hour stream that I did in reference to that incident, it was extremely, extremely insightful, you guys. I urge you to check it out. Now listen, I apologize. It's 7 hours long, but there was a lot that went on in those 7 hours. There was a lot of conversation. There was a lot of myth revealing and truth telling, as I like to put it. And out of those 7 hours, something beautiful came from there, you guys. I had a conversation on the panel, and I said this. I said, listen, for every incident where we have seen a black person killed and shot by a white officer, I'm talking about the type of cases that have been put out in front of the media, and we've all acknowledged are cases that we are not okay with, that are unacceptable, right? We're talking about the deaths by the hands of white law enforcement officers. The ones that have gotten a lot of public attention. We're talking George Floyd, Tamir Rice, Rayshard Brooks, right? Breonna Taylor. These are all very high profile cases. And I think one of the most interesting things that I've noticed surrounding police encounters with black citizens is that there's a segment of our community that does not believe that these things actually happen to white people. And oftentimes when I have conversations with people about it, they always ask, well, what about this? What about that? There are no white kids who were around the age of Tamir Rice who was killed for holding a BB gun. There's no one who was in her home where the police have went in illegally and actually shot and killed a white woman. There's no one where an officer has sat on the neck of an individual for X amount of minutes and they died because of it. There's no situations like that where they were white. And listen, you guys, I have to argue and say that's not true. It's absolutely not true. And on the stream, I made a statement. I said, listen, for every case where we have identified a black person who died by the hands of a white officer that we have actually put in front of the news and that we have spoke out against, I can show you another case where a white person has died the exact same way. Now, during that statement, I know for a fact that could be triggering to a lot of people. You know, there's a segment of our community that truly believes that white people do not have the same outcomes as black people when it comes to law enforcement encounters. You guys, that's not true. It's absolutely not true. And I think who's to blame for that? You guys, it's the media. It's the media and it's other people within our community who are so engulfed into an emotional argument that they start to spread a lot of myths and propaganda. Now listen, I'm not saying that there are no issues within law enforcement or there's no issues within the criminal justice system. I know for a fact that there are issues that need to be addressed, issues involving race, issues involving discrimination, and issues in reference to unequitable practices against blacks versus whites. Now, I often say, listen, we can have a conversation about it, but I'm asking you to be patient. I'm asking you to be calm. I'm asking you to take your emotions out of it. It's very difficult to have these conversations when a person is emotional. Now, I do understand these things are sensitive. At the same time, truth is truth, whether we like it or not. Truth is truth, whether we can digest it or not. I'm asking you to be patient. I'm asking you to take the time to hear what I have to say. Before you judge, I'm asking you to listen. Before you make a statement, before you repeat something that's false, before you say something that's inaccurate, I'm asking you to be patient. You guys, and this is the purpose of this channel, to have difficult conversations. What is the point if we're not willing to listen? What is the point if you're not willing to trust the information? I ask you guys, I'm always willing to have the conversation, and there's never a topic that I'm not going to feel comfortable discussing. So in this particular situation, you guys, I made the statement. Now, this lady, this young lady, she took the information and she went back to her channel and she made some statements. She stated that it's not true. She said it's not possible. It's never happened. She went on to say that you cannot show me an incident where a white person has experienced the same outcome as Sandra Bland. You can't show me the same incident where a white person has experienced the same outcome as George Floyd. You can't show me a white person who has experienced the same outcome as Tamir Rice, you guys. I beg to differ. And that's the purpose of this channel, you guys. That's the purpose of this stream. Again, it's black skin and white shadows, you guys. Why do I name the stream this? Why is that the title? Because at the end of the day, you guys, the same things happen. We are all victims of bad police practices. We're all victims of police brutality. Again, it does not have a color. You know, the unique problem with law enforcement in the black community is very unique, historical in nature, and there are things that need to be done. But at the same time, you guys, white people do have the same bad outcomes as everybody else. And I think this is why it's important to have the discussion. In this video, you guys, I have clipped the stream where I have actually discussed and I exposed and I made the comparisons. So I'm asking you to be patient and listen. At the end of this video, I'm encouraging everyone to do their own research. At the bottom of the description of this video, you will find all the news articles pertaining to these deaths by police encounters, you guys. The information will be there for you to double check my source. Now, after this particular stream, you guys, I will be hosting a live stream directly after this, approximately 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. You guys will all be transferred over into the live stream. If anyone has any questions, if you'd like to speak, if you'd like to ask me anything directly and come up and have a dialogue, or those who want to debate, by all means, you are welcome. Now, as you guys know, my policy over here, if you want to debate a point, if you want to challenge me on something, you are required to cam on, right? I'm not going to debate an avatar, you guys, for a lot of different reasons. So with that being said, you guys, take a look. Please receive this information with an open heart and an open mind. And with that, let's dive into the content.
just comply, they wouldn't shoot you. He's hitting us with that. And we've seen the Philando Castells that are sitting in their car like, okay, officer, here's my ID, reach for your driver's license, and you get shot up. The gaslighting and the disrespect is outrageous here. Well, if you guys would just comply and you just wouldn't be so mean to the police and you just wouldn't think they were so bad, then you guys wouldn't get shot. You can't make this up.
And just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So for any conversation people have about what white officers have done to black people, I can show you 2 other situations where a white officer has done the exact same thing to a white person. All right, so we just have...
Okay, can you please show us the white man that's sleeping in his bed and white officers knock on his door with a no-knock warrant and bust in and light him up in his sleep? Please show us. Can y'all please show us white men that are sitting on the ground for 10 minutes with another white man with his foot literally on his neck until he can't breathe and dies? Show it to us. We're waiting. Please show us the white women like Sandra, that white women who got Sandra Blanded, that got pulled over for no reason and then died in jail, and then her dead corpse was set up like a mugshot. Show it to us. And this is why I say a Jamaican cop, that's a double bias. That's double ignorance. Why the hell would I sit and go back and forth with you? Anything you've done to a black person, I can show you where cops did the same thing to 2 other white people. Shut up. You literally can't. You're lying.
All right. Let's dive into it. You heard what she said. You heard what she said. She said, you cannot show me. You're lying. She said, you heard it, Chantel. Double ignorance. You guys, let's dive into it because this is where it gets interesting. We're going to have the conversation. This is difficult for some people to swallow. For those who are not indoctrinated by the media, we're going to have a conversation. All right. We're going to have a conversation. What did she just say? You remember the names that she said. First of all, what she said about Sandra Bland was false. They have video of her moving around inside the jail.
Sandra Bland was alive and well during her time, in the Waller County Jail up until Monday morning.
And Waller County Judge Trey Duhan hopes releasing hours of jail surveillance video will prove that to anyone who ever doubted it.
You've got people putting information out there that is trying to convince people that she was murdered and deceased before she came to the Waller County Jail.
In the video, we see Bland's arrival at the jail on July 10th and different moments from throughout her 3 days there, including Bland going into a bathroom to change out of her clothes into a jail jumpsuit.
Again, on social media, there's been some very crazy speculation that Waller County Jail, all inmate photos are taken in street clothes and such. And so it was unusual for her mugshot to be taken in the orange jumpsuit. That is incorrect.
You can then clearly see Bland walking around the booking desk to have her mugshot taken.
She's been sleeping in the holding cell, and this is where the infamous mugshot is taken against the wall.
Bland is photographed first facing forward, then to each side.
And again, there's been stuff put out on social media that these photographs were taken intentionally dark to hide the fact that she was deceased. As you can see, that's not the case.
She was never propped up dead and taken a photo of, you guys. That was false. The power of social media, you guys, that's the problem when we don't do research, when we're too quick to move off of emotions. What else is the issue? She said, you guys, she spoke to her family while she was in jail. That's a fact from the family. She was never killed and then brought into the jail and taken a photo of while she was dead. You guys, that did not happen. This is the problem when we have people who are not qualified to talk on things that they're not qualified to talk about. This is the problem. She commands 44,000 subscribers on her channel. That video that she just released, over 30 to 40,000 views, you guys. Listen. Let's talk about truth. She just said I couldn't prove it. She said I couldn't prove it. You guys, welcome to my class, right? Dispelling myths and propaganda. I am going to show you every single incident that has happened to us that we speak about. I'm going to show you what's happened to white people too. You guys, this is not to discredit those who died. They should not have died. This is so that we can stop putting this myth over our community. You guys, the problem with law enforcement is a real problem. What we can't do is make lies up about things that aren't real. We can't have fairy tale arguments. We can't act like we don't live in a country where this is happening to everybody. The American problem, right, with law enforcement affects everybody. It affects everybody. Our personal relationship and problem with law enforcement is historical. Yes, indeed. And there's some unique problems that need to be addressed specifically to the Black community. What we're not going to do is talk like these things don't happen to everybody except for us. That's bullshit. Again, you guys, if you hate the police, that's fine. Hate them for the truth. Don't hate them for the lies. We're going to have a moment of truth. Let this be a moment where we start dispelling these myths and propaganda over our community because it's causing us to have negative impacts. All right. Zachary Hammond, you guys. I will also put the links to these in the description of this video when I'm done. I will add them all on here and you can do your own research, pull up the news articles and read them for yourself. Right? Let's dive into it. Again, what did she say? She said it's not real. It doesn't happen. It's not true. White people have not been killed the same way as Black people that we have put out in the media, the ones that BLM is supporting. Again, it's not true, you guys. Let's talk about it. Philando Castelle, we all know who he is. Listen, pray for these people. Pray for their family. They should not have died, you guys. Absolutely should not have died. Let's talk about what happened. Right? Zachary Hammond, on July 26th, Hammond was driving through the back parking lots of the Hardee's fast food restaurant, 40 miles from Greenville, North Carolina. The officers were targeting Hammond's passenger. They were looking for the passenger, right? A 23-year-old woman. Bland said Hammond slowed the car, reached to the floor where his car's gear shift was located in order to put the vehicle in park. At that point, Bland said someone shouted at Hammond he had a gun and he was shot by the officer. When they investigated, there was no gun, there was no drugs in the car at all. Right? This is Zachary Hammond. This is related to Philando Castelle. Let's look at this one. Holli Gooch. Right? This is equivalent to Breonna Taylor. Gooch was shot when a group of Bartow County Sheriff's Office deputies and a Catersville Police Department officer entered the home in an attempt to arrest an armed robbery suspect. Right? The lawsuit filed by Gooch's parents on behalf of her estate and two children ages 2 and 10 claim police entered the home in violation of her Fourth Amendment rights, right? And they shot and killed her, you guys. They shot and killed her. This was December 16, 2010. This was before Breonna Taylor. You didn't hear about it, and you won't hear about it. Another Breonna Taylor case. I'm going to give you two. This one is with a white man. Okay, because she said, Breonna Taylor, show me someone who was sleeping and got shot by the police, you guys. Breonna Taylor was wide awake when she was shot. She was never sleeping. Listen, the problem that I have with Chelsea is she doesn't even know the correct facts of the people who died. Right? Breonna Taylor wasn't asleep. She was standing up when she got shot by these idiot cops who had no business being at her apartment. She wasn't sleeping. But this gentleman, Duncan Socrates Lemp, on March 13, 2020, this man was asleep when he got shot. A Maryland man who was shot and killed by a police officer was asleep in his bedroom when police opened fire from outside his house. An attorney from the 21-year-old man's family said the man's girlfriend was also wounded. This is someone who was really shot while he was sleeping, you guys. He was really shot. Edward Bronstein. This is George Floyd. He died the same way George Floyd died. Edward Bronstein, 38 years old, was taken into custody on suspicion of driving under the influence by California Highway Patrol Officer Dusty Osmanson after a traffic stop on 5 Freeway March 5th, March 31st. The suspect was taken to the CHP station where officer tried to forcefully draw his blood to measure his alcohol level, but he reportedly refused. The 16-minute video captured by a sergeant shows Bronstein kneeling on the ground while an officer presses hands onto his shoulders while another officer who's off camera orders him to comply with a court order to draw blood. You know what happened in this? There's a video for those who want to see it. The man dies. He dies because someone was sitting on his back. All right. George Floyd. George Floyd, number two. Tony Timpa, this is another white man, right, who died the same way George Floyd did. Tony Timpa called 911. This man called the police for help, right? Called the police for help August 1st, 2016, from the parking lot of a pornography store in Dallas. The Dallas Morning News reported Timpa told the dispatcher he was afraid and needed help. He said he suffered from schizophrenia and depression and had not taken his medication. Timpa died within 20 minutes of officers arriving on the scene. An autopsy ruled that Timpa's cause of death was a homicide. The medical examiner said Timpa died from sudden cardiac arrest due to the toxic effects of cocaine and the stress associated with physical restraints. You guys, this is very, very similar to George Floyd. George Floyd had some narcotics in his system. We know that his elevated, listen, let me stay in my lane, right? I don't know the medical stuff behind this, but the reality is, in combination with how the officers were treating him, the position he was in, it instigated his death right in that moment. And so again, this is exactly the same. Tony Timpa, a white man. Now, Sandra Bland, because she said Sandra Bland, right? Sandra Bland died in prison, you guys. Sandra Bland's family took a payout, right? She was suicidal. You know, that's the reason why we don't hear about it, right? Here's the situation. Now, I'm going to tell you what I have an issue with this one, but let's take a look at this. Madaline Pitkin, April 2014. She was 26-year-old heroin addict, pulled over for a routine traffic stop in 2014, arrested for an outstanding warrant. She quickly became ill despite repeatedly begging for medical attention in writing, eventually died from untreated complications. She was never convicted of a crime. Her family sued the department for $10 million and they won. The only problem I see with this is not Breonna Taylor, but Sandra Bland, they got 1.9 million. This girl got 10 million. Right? Tamir Rice, this is one that a lot of people talk about, right? You guys, unfortunately, children with replica guns is dangerous. Unfortunately, we have officers that, right? Let's read this. Tamir Rice. This is a Tamir Rice situation. Payton Ham, April 14, 2021, a 16-year-old armed with a knife and what turned out to be an airsoft gun was shot and killed Tuesday afternoon by a Maryland state trooper. State police official said authorities in Maryland got 2 911 calls just before 1:30 Tuesday about a guy acting suspicious who the callers thought had a gun. Woodrow Jones, officer. The trooper got there within minutes and confronted a male in a driveway. A preliminary investigation indicated the male was armed with a gun and a knife. I guess I got to scroll down a little further, but it won't let me scroll on here. But that officer shot Payton Hammond once. He tried to move. He shot him again and he killed him, you guys. That's Payton Ham. You can look up his name. Another one. This is another Tamir Rice situation. This is Antonio Acre, 14-year-old. Arizona police officer who shot and killed a 14-year-old boy who was holding a replica gun will not be charged in the death. Prosecutor said Friday, you guys. I have the article here. I can't pull it up on here, unfortunately, but Again, I will have that for you. I'm just running through here just so you can see the names. Andrew Thomas is another one. Let's talk about this one. Andrew Thomas is similar to Jacob Blake. What do you say? Andrew Thomas, the man shot by a Paradise police officer after a chase that ended in a rollover crash, is dead. The nurse supervisor center confirmed that Thomas died approximately whatever. Early Thanksgiving morning, Officer Patrick Feaster and the Paradise Police Department pursued Thomas after suspected him of getting behind the wheel drunk. He was a drunk driver, right? The chase ended on Pearson Road when Thomas hit the median and rolled his Toyota 4Runner and ejected and killing his ex-wife, right? Darren Eron, 23, as Thomas pulled himself from the wreckage SUV, Officer Feaster shot him once in the neck, which left Thomas paralyzed from the neck down. He eventually died. Now get this, you guys. Andrew Thomas is DUI. There's a video of this. I watched the video of this incident. He's DUI. He's running from the police. He's driving from the police, avoiding them. He hits the curb, flips the car over. His wife gets ejected. She dies, right? He crawls out the car. Watch the video. And the officer shoots him in the back of the neck. This is a white officer who shot and killed this white man. I said this is close to Jacob Blake. See, he was paralyzed, but then died later. And the officer ended up getting convicted of murder. Right? You guys, this happens because we have incompetent people who do this job. Incompetent people impact everybody. The problem is we have people in law enforcement that aren't qualified to put that uniform on. They're not qualified to wield that power that they have. We throw that job around like it's nothing, you guys. This is an issue. It impacts everybody. And it has a different kind of impact on the Black community. But what we cannot say, you guys, is that white people are not having the same outcomes. They're having bad outcomes with the police. Hunter Brittain, unarmed 17-year-old. Let's look at Hunter Brittain. I just threw him in here because he's unarmed. God rest the soul of these people who've lost their life tragically by the hands of stupid police officers. June 23rd, 2021, 17-year-old Hunter Brittain was test driving his truck after making repairs early in the morning when he was pulled over by former Lenoke County Sergeant Mike Davis near a body shop. According to the affidavit, when Brittain pulled over and got out the car, he started moving to the truck bed as the truck was rolling backwards towards Davis' patrol car. As Brittain did this, Davis shot one round at Brittain in his lower right neck. While investigating the incident, the county sheriff's office discovered that Davis' body camera footage had only been turned on after Brittain was shot, you guys. Right? Here's the problem. What'd she say? No marches for them. Absolutely not. No march for them. Check this out. They don't show this stuff on the news on purpose, you guys. This is by design. You don't hear about this. This is by design. I bet you didn't hear about the white man in the wheelchair who was shot 9 times in the back by a white police officer at Walmart. I bet you didn't hear about that. Anybody in the chat, those who weren't on my previous stream when I talked about it, anybody in this chat ever hear about the man who was shot 9 times in the back by a white man? And he was in a motorized wheelchair. Look it up. You guys, they're playing games with our community. They're playing games with this right here, you guys. What did Bob Marley say? So we have some yachties in the chat. He said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Well, technically, shout out to Marcus Garvey. Mental slavery, you guys. Emancipate yourself. It's your responsibility to free yourself. Hunter Brittain, unarmed, 17-year-old. He got barely no publicity. Listen, you guys, thank you so much for watching. And I want to say something real quick before we end out. Listen, making this comparison by no means is to dismiss or to belittle the incidents that are happening or the outcomes, the negative outcomes that have happened to African Americans in regarding law enforcement. You guys, that's not what this is about. You know, this is why I said earlier, be patient with me. Again, the purpose of this is to dispel a lot of myths, to dispel a lot of the propaganda, you guys. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that do take place that are not shared amongst our community. You know, one would argue that some people might not want us to know. Some might say that it's not really pressed, right? It doesn't sell, you know. This is about money. It's about entertainment. For the media, this has nothing to do with what's right or what's wrong. They do what's based off of what aligns their pockets. Again, unfortunately, they know that our community is very sensitive to these topics and that we do invest a lot of interest in them. But at the same time, they do not give an equal balanced representation of what's actually taking place in this country. Now, I will say this though, this doesn't take away that there's an issue that needs to be addressed with law enforcement and how law enforcement conducts themselves with the Black community. This also doesn't dismiss the fact that the Black community, right, has to be mindful of the behaviors that we present to law enforcement when we have encounters, you guys. It goes both ways. Both sides have to address some very important things. There's no way around it. We have to be honest. We absolutely have to be honest. But why is this important to have this conversation, you guys? Because a lot of people in our community, they don't know. They truly believe that white people do not have the same outcomes, right? We can argue semantics of who has it worse, who gets it more often, right? The reality is this: I'm asking you and I'm challenging you to, when you hear this myth, combat it, speak against it. Don't repeat the fallacies, right? And I say, listen, take this link and share it amongst people and let them know that this is the truth. And just because you don't hear about it, just because you don't see about it, doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I think so often we get caught up in the idea of, because I was never shown, I was never told, it's not our fault per se. But here's the work that's being done. I'm showing you guys. I'm asking you and I'm challenging you to share. And then I'm also asking and challenging you to, when you hear someone say something of the effect of, this does not happen to white people, this does not happen to them, please make sure you push back on those statements. Why do I say that, you guys? Because it does not help. It does not help our relationship with law enforcement. It sends the wrong message to our people, and it creates a false narrative that isn't true. Listen, if we're gonna hate the police, I'm okay with that, but hate them for the truth. Don't hate them for the lies. And that is the reality at the end of the day, you guys. Move with the truth, always. And don't settle for anyone pushing propaganda or fear mongering, because that does impact our mentality and how we view and our perception of law enforcement. If we walk around thinking that this is the truth, when it is not the truth, you guys, it has an impact. It creates unnecessary fear. It creates unnecessary trauma. And we start to think that we are victims of police brutality. And in fact, it's the nation, right? It's not just us. But though, again, it does not dismiss the fact we have real issues dealing with the criminal justice system that needs to be addressed. So I don't want to confuse the two. What I'm saying is, let's move in truth, not in lies, and let's not spread myths and propaganda. This creates fear mongering. It influences our behavior when we contact and come in contact with law enforcement, and ultimately can put us in a bad situation that we do not need. And with that, you guys, let's stay tuned for the live stream. I will see you guys on the other side.